Baby, I wanna do all of the things a man won't do. I'll do them for you. Yeah. Last night was amazing, y'all. Oh my gosh. Like, I finally got to see Joe at the King's Theater. And I was telling my son I ain't never seen that many white folks before at an R&B concert because I love me some R&B and I'm always at the Barclays most of the time. And last night was actually the first time I went in a long time to King's Theater. The last time I was there, R. Kelly performed. Yeah. And he was on a buffet tour. And I took my coworker because with him, every time we went out, he always paid for everything. So I was like, okay, let me treat him and, whatever. And he never been to a concert before. So we chose R. Kelly. And it wasn't really nothing much. He was pretty much, he didn't really sing much. And he had like a mascot on the stage. It's kind of weird, but that was the last time I was there, 2016. No, actually 2017 I went to see a Married but Single too. Yeah, that was 2017. Yeah. So R. Kelly was 2016 and the play was 2017. So the last time I was there was actually 2017. Wow, yeah. And I saw Jill Scott. That was 2015. So yeah, Jill Scott, R. Kelly, the play that I saw. And when they did the play, they lied. They made it seem like the only thing available was orchestra. The whole balcony was closed. So, but it was fine because the tickets weren't that expensive each time I went. Last night I paid $91. This wasn't too bad. And that was because of other fees, like service fees and whatever. But I enjoyed myself. Tamia, I was never really a diehard fan, but she have a few songs that I love and I know the lyrics. And it wasn't until she was performing I'm like, wow, I really am a fan. Like, she did Close the Door, Bed or Floor, I Just Want More, I Can't Get Enough for You. Of course, she did Stranger in My House. And Her Name Is Me. And when her opening act, she did her newest song, I Can Catch It Like Fire, Fire. Leave it smoking, leave it smoking. I love that song. And nobody else was singing along, but I love that song. That song came out, I want to say pre-pandemic. That's like her newest song. But yeah, she looked fabulous. The hair, makeup, the outfit. She looked smoking hot. I'm like, go Tamia. And yeah, it was a fabulous time. A great time. Money well spent. Yeah, I remember I was asking my cousin and my other cousin to come with me, and they was like, they'll let me know. I didn't hear anything, so I'm like, fuck it, I'm gonna just go on my own, and I'm happy I did. Now tonight is Ashanti at Barclays, but I seen her before. And Tamar Braxton, I'm not really a fan. I like 112, but not enough to all them extra people. Genuine I've seen before in concert. Yeah, so Barclays tonight I know is gonna be nice, but most of them I've seen before. And then I'm not a fan of Tamar Braxton, but I like 112. So that should be dope. Tonight's my friend's birthday. We going to Oasis Lounge, so hopefully it's lit. Hopefully it's cool. What did I want to talk about today? It's a bunch of things. Um, I want to talk about history and teaching our children things that you may not hear in the media. So, two incidents I wanted to talk about police brutality a little bit, and then the general topic of today is let your children know history. Teach them history. Tell them things that happened in the past because the past is very important so we don't repeat it. Unfortunately, history does repeat itself or whatever. And yeah. So boom. Those of you who are 35 and older, or I would say maybe people a little older than me might have a better memory. Abla Lawima. I don't know if y'all remember him. I never forgot him. He was a man that was assaulted by police. He was in the hospital for months before he could walk again. He had to go through surgery and so many things to walk again. They put a stick up his behind. The police officers in uniform took him to the precinct, and instead of being professional and looking him up, they didn't even beat him. They put a stick up his butt, which is 10 times worse than Rodney King. That to me is the worst scenario, and so many people my age forgot about it. I never forgot about it because the school that I went to, shout out to Pilgrim Christian Academy, and there's people who go to Pilgrim Church, they didn't even know that they had a school. Yes, there was a school from 1975 to 2001. They closed down because, people were leaving and, lack of funding and everything. And the church doesn't support, when it comes to like black ministries, for whatever reason, they do not support the schools. So the schools suffer and they shut down. It's very unfortunate. So, Pilgrim was such an awesome school because though we were in elementary, we did something called current events. And they did not shun us because we were children. They said, hey, current events, whether if it was Monica Lewinsky, Abba Lawima, or RuPaul's, we knew about it. And if it was in the paper, we cut it up. I was telling my son this morning, we cut it up and we put it on something called Old Tag, children. Those of you who are watching this. So, Old Tag is like a poster board. Some people take it with them to wrestling events. Some people take it with them to rock concerts. Nobody really does that at an R&B concert, but more so like rock concerts and hockey games, you might see it and stuff like that. It's just like a poster thing. We had to use that for our current events. So I remember this particular one because we did it for current events, and it was just such a profound trauma that happened. It's just something I personally will never forget. And so I was telling my son about it because the New York City Police Department is the most racist department in the country. I don't care what nobody says. A lot of people say, oh, in the South, the South, the South. But guess what? I have family in the South, and everybody I've ever met that came from the South, they said New York is more racist than the South. And I believe them. I 100% believe them. And you have to keep it alive. You have to teach your children the history. Teach us your children things because history repeats itself. Why is it that just anything, why certain things are, it's racism. Yes, we as a people, we need to get it together with supporting each other, and I get that. But the facts are a lot of things are the way they are due to racism. It still exists, people. And it didn't start in the 90s. It didn't start in the 2000s. That is the foundation of this country. So a lot of people want to know, well, why is it that they don't like Americans? It's not that they don't like Americans. It's the fact of America's foundation was thievery and no morals. That's the history of America. Slavery, putting people in bondage, and stealing the land from the Native Americans. Y'all need to research Trail of Tears. Y'all forgot about that. But Trail of Tears is 18,000 Native Americans died during the Trail of Tears. Died. Okay? They were forced by a man called Andrew Jackson to leave. Right? Fast facts. So New Mexico, Oklahoma, Wyoming, all those states used to belong to Mexico. There's something called the Mexican-American War, and the Americans won. And that's why places like Wyoming, Oklahoma, Arkansas, Arizona, places that you just know is Native American. Like, you don't have to be a historian to know that that's Native American territory, right? Or Mexican territory. They lost the war, so that's why New Mexico, Wyoming, Oklahoma, all those states belong to America now, because they lost the war, right? There was a war, and I wish they would talk more about this in the media. There was a war between America and Mexico, and it did not belong to America, folks. America took the land from the Mexicans. It's in history. So when people say, oh, America this, America that, you got to look at the history. America stole a lot from people. Yes, I'm proud to be an American, and I'm happy for freedom. But guess what? We had to fight for that freedom. It didn't just come to us. Women's suffrage movement, women's rights, civil rights as an African American. We had to fight for everything that we had. We did. It's not just it's a free country. Yeah, because we fought for it. I'm able to be a single woman with a job and an education because the women before me fought for it. It's not because America is so great and we're so wonderful. It's the women before me fought for it. The African Americans fought for me to get an education. There was a time when black people could not go to college. That's why why do we have HBCUs? Some of y'all don't even know why they exist. They exist because they didn't want us in their institutions. They said that we were animals and that we were apes and we were gorillas and monkeys and that we were idiots and we couldn't learn. So therefore, and also we were 4/5 of a man. We weren't even considered human. We weren't considered women and men. We were considered animals. So these people really believed in their head that we were so ignorant and so stupid we couldn't sit in a classroom and learn anything. So that's why you have historically black colleges and universities, because they did not allow us in their colleges. They didn't allow us. If this was 1865, I couldn't go to Mercy College. I would have had to sit in the hallway, or because you had some professors that had sense and they had morals, and they would let black people in their classes. You had some schools that would do it on a sneak tip. But for the most part, black people could not get an education, and so this is why you had HBCUs that were created in the first place. It wasn't just, we black, no, we weren't allowed, so we had to make our own. Why is there segregation in churches? They said the most segregated hour is 11 a.m. Why? Because white people did not want us in church. Now, get this part. They forced the religion on us during slavery, but then when slavery was over, they didn't want us in our churches because they said that we were demons, and that's why our skin was black. So they said that we're demons and we're doomed for failure and hell, and that we are not supposed to be in church. This is why history is important, right? This is why it still goes on today, because there's always a history behind it. There's always logic to the madness. So we were not allowed in white churches. Therefore, black people started the Apostolic Baptist Church, African American Episcopal. Those of you who have never heard, Allen AME is more than just a church in Queens with black folks. It's AME stands for African American Methodist Episcopal. That's what AME stands for. It literally was a group of black people who loved the Lord. They weren't allowed to go to these white churches, and they made up their own thing, their own church. And that's why you have black churches. That's why you have the Pentecostal Baptist and AME Episcopal churches, because they had to get their own churches. And then, not to mention, they were burning down churches. Fast forward to 1960s, 70s, 80s, and the 90s. Shout out to NYPD Blue, very educational. They had an episode on there where churches was just burning. There was a time in the 80s and the 90s that they were burning down black churches. So even when we had our own churches, they didn't want us to have our own churches. They just wanted us to not go, So there's a whole history of that. It's deeper than just the separate water fountains. They didn't want us to go to church, right? They didn't want us to go to school. And we all know when a person don't have religion or education, you ain't nothing in this world. You have to have those two things. You don't have to be religious. There's a difference. Listen to my words. You don't have to be religious, but you need to know God, whether that's the Quran, Muslim faith, the Christian faith. You have to have some connection to God. You can't just go, especially as an African American. I don't care what nobody says. We are the most oppressed, and you have to have some type of God. That's why I don't understand how I get it, but yet I don't. I'm like, how do you not worship God? And we as a people, we've been through so much. We done been through slavery, oppression. What keeps you going day by day? Even right now with this inflation, how do you not believe in God? How do you not hold on to your beliefs? I don't get people. I need God. I'll be the first to admit I need God. So yeah, just in general, it's important to teach our children history, because if we don't teach it, they won't know it. It's that simple. I remember working at a junior high school in my neighborhood pre-pandemic, and the teacher was shaking his head like, oh my God, I can't believe these kids don't know who Harriet Tubman is. I said, well, nobody taught them. That's your job. If they don't know something, you tell them. You don't judge them for not knowing. Somebody taught us. I knew who Harriet Tubman was in the 2nd and 3rd grade. I dressed up as Harriet in the 3rd grade. But someone taught me who Harriet Tubman was. If nobody taught me, I wouldn't know either. I know this stuff because somebody sat down and loved me enough to teach me my African heritage, to teach me how to love myself, to teach me that my hair is not a sin to wear braids. Now, there's a scripture in the Bible that says that you're not supposed to wear braids. Go look it up. Yeah, this is a part of my culture. It's a part of my heritage. I'm in love with being black. I love being black. I love the songs. I love the music. We created music. We might have a lot of things that is going on, but I love being black. When you really dig into the history of your heritage, Cleopatra, the Egyptian Empire, Moses, and it gives you a sense of pride. And that's why they don't want to teach it. That's why they want to tell you that Cleopatra is a Greek. And people believe this, that she was a Greek. Like, okay, I'm not going to argue with you. I know better. So yeah. Pretty soon they gonna be saying Moses was white, I guess. So but know your history is so important. Know the history of America. Study it. Study it. Like, really, you get a chance, it's important to know the history of America. And it was not designed for you, but we still overcame as a people. And yes, this is the end of Women's History Month, but guess what? Black history is every day. You black is every day, or 365 days of the year, right? You are important. You are somebody. Don't let nobody of another race tell you that you're insignificant because you're black, that you don't contribute. Guess what? You cannot live without black inventions. Look it up. We invented everything from the traffic light to everything. There's nothing that we didn't invent. You cannot live without black inventions. You cannot live without black knowledge. We are the first people to be on this earth. Let's say you don't want to believe that black people invented anything. The first continent, why do they call it the motherland? Because it's the first continent on the earth. Africa. Africa goes back into before the Bible days, basically. That's where it all began. Africa. When you do art, all colors come from black. You get some paint, you add white to black, you put another color, it all comes from black. Whether if it's you talking about humans, you talking about art, you talking about paint, all colors come from black. I don't care if it's pink, yellow, it comes from black. It comes from black. Anything, it comes from black. Black is the original color. You can't get to white until you have to come from black. So yes, I can't stress that enough. Teach your children history. The good, the bad, the ugly. Somebody has said, I was in an Uber and I was going to the movies. It was Christmas Day. And the Uber driver goes, oh, that's that white people stuff, with the incest. I said, the Egyptians committed incest. It's in the Bible. He's like, oh, no, da-da-da-da. And he's like, oh, Egyptians some of them were Europeans. This was a black man saying this. I can't make this up. He said, oh, no, some of them were Europeans. How could they be Europeans and Egypt is in Africa? And it's not even like, oh, he's dumb. This is what they teach, I guess. Because even somebody I know sent me a text and we were going back and forth, and then eventually I just gave up. Like, if this is what you really think, then I can't change your thinking. If that's what you really believe, that Egyptians are from Europe, that they're from Greece, what can I say to that? What. Now, I do believe that, yes, maybe sometime after, but the thing about it is, after Mark Antony and Cleopatra had their affair or whatever, that doesn't take away from the fact that she was still an African woman. And people get that confused, like, oh, well, because she had this affair with him, that means she was white. Like, no, she was an African woman who had an affair with a Roman or whatever man, Italian man or Greek man, whatever. But that doesn't take away from her lineage and her culture and her race of being black, and let's take it a step further. What about the Cleopatras before her? Were they not from Egypt? So all of them are from Greece. Just all of them are from Greece. Egypt never existed, and Egypt is in Greece. That's what we saying. That's what we come. It's like, okay. Some things are just obvious. Some things you don't even have to research. But history is so, a lot of people don't like history because they don't understand it and they don't see how it correlates to their own life, right? Why do we as black women, why do we wear bracelets around our ankle? I personally don't. But why do, that is from Africa. Why do we dance? Every time we hear a beat, we just have to dance. Africa. Why do we feel the need to always get braids? Africa. It's a part of who we are. Why do we have tattoos? Africa. That comes from Africa. A lot of the things that you do, you don't even know why you do it. It's in your African DNA to do it. Right? It's in you. You are your ancestors' present, right? So I think it's just so beautiful when I see a dark-skinned person, because not just because they're beautiful because God made them, but it shows, I feel like, the strength of the lineage. Especially when you see dark-skinned people, their parents are dark-skinned, the grandparents are dark. That's really good because it shows the DNA is so strong in their family, the strength. Now me, I'm a little light because from, slavery and things of that nature and mixing and it is what it is. But it's good to see somebody with a big nose, giant lips, dark skin, because it shows the strength in their DNA, the strength in their lineage, the strength that it didn't dissipate. It's still there, so it's amazing, that I feel like it's amazing that you have dark people from the beginning of time and you still have that. To me is amazing. That to me, I really feel like that's amazing. That you had dark-skinned people back in the thousands of years ago and they still here. So that shows the strength of the DNA, how strong it is, how it, right? So appreciate that. Love on that. Love your nappy hair. Love your dark skin. Love your flat nose and your full lips. And love your hips and your thighs and your whatever God made you. Just love on it. Don't try to change it. Don't try to. Sometimes we wear wigs, and for me personally, I don't wear wigs every day because I've always been taught to just love my natural. And that's a part of our heritage. When you try to, I never dyed my hair, but when you dye your hair, you perm your hair, you are literally changing God and the way He made you. It's deeper than just, well, I just want a new look. Why? I like new looks too. I get wigs. But to permanently perm it, because what does perm mean? Permanent. It's permanent. So why would you want to change what God gave you permanently? I'm going to go Malcolm X on y'all real quick. Who told you that something was wrong? Who told you? And yes, I straighten my hair too out of laziness because it's easier for me to wash and set my hair and put it in a wrap every night than it is for me to moisturize it. Because when you leave it natural, and you don't straighten it, you have to moisturize so it doesn't get matted, right? A lot of people, when they leave it in this natural state, they have to go bald again because they didn't comb it every day. They didn't moisturize it. You have to comb it every day. You have to moisturize. It's work. Anybody would tell you. Anybody with natural hair, they don't straighten it. It's work. But it's still what God gave you. So that's what I wanted to talk about today. Just love on yourself. Love on your people. Support black businesses on purpose. Because don't say, oh, well, I'm not going to support black business because they piss me off. Because if an Asian did it, you wouldn't be saying that. If a white person did it, you still be going to that store, that suit store, that dress store, whatever, that sneaker store. You still going to patronize. right? So just because one black person might make a mistake, go to the next black owned. Don't just say, "Oh, I'm not going." Because when you say you don't support black owned, you're really saying you don't support yourself because you're black. Now if a white person wants to say they don't support black owned, they would be deemed as racist. So why is it not considered racist when a black person says it? And I don't care what nobody says, black people are the most racist people on the planet. Who the hell? And y'all might say, oh, other races did it. But I feel like it's worse with us because we didn't have anything to start with, and then we sold each other into slavery. Like, who does that? Who, until the day, right? Even at the workplace. Well, I don't care if you work corporate America or daycare. The hate that we have for each other on the workplace is just sad. Like, people go out their way to go write people up that look just like them. I don't get it. It's like, why do we hate each other so much? And then when somebody else hate on us, we have an issue and a problem with it. Lack of not knowing who you are. That's what it is. If you really tapped into who you was and who you belong to, that wouldn't happen. Why am I so passionate about certain things? Because I know who I am and I know what I come from. And I know my history. And I know the importance of sticking together. I know the importance of supporting people. I know the importance of all these things. Other cultures, you don't have to tell them that they should support it. They know that. That's why they succeed. That's why they're blessed. That's why the Jews are blessed, Asians, all of them, because they stick together. You don't have to like a person, but it's important to stick together. Why do they stick together? Because they know who they are, they know who they belong, and they know whose they are, and they know their history. So that's important, that's important. And my dream is, before I pass away, that black people will be way more unified than they are right now, because it's a mess right now. It really is. We are the only race of people who another culture can come into our neighborhoods and take over. Notice that the word regentrification, what is the definition? Right? What is first of all, let's break it down. Hold that thought. Okay, so I'm back. The definition that Google has is first detected in the late 60s. Regentrification described as the return of affluent households to cities, causing an increase in housing prices and property tax revenue. That's one definition. Another definition is the restoration and upgrading and deteriorated urban property by middle class or affluent people, often resulting in displacement of lower income people. So I read that definition because I basically wanted to get at this. Regentrification obviously affects African Americans. I'll give you an example. Okay, so those of you from Queens, Ozone Park, my mother was raised in Ozone Park. It was all white when she was growing up. And in the year 2000, I saw for myself that it went from white to Indian, literally, in a matter of months. They took over the entire Ozone Park. The entire Ozone Park just took over. And they came in with their families from Bangladesh or wherever they came from, and they stuck together. And I have you to know that in 2024, it is still Indian. It is still Indian, Ozone Park. Right now, because my grandmother passed away in 2006. She was 87 years old, and her sister passed away in 2021. So the house right now is like, nobody knows what they want to do, XYZ, and it would be a shame that if that house is no longer in my family, because it's going to go to an Indian. And it's not even about being prejudiced or racist or whatever. But it's like it was all white, now it's Indian, and y'all can't figure out what we're gonna do with this house. Like, so it's like that's what happens when you don't plan. Now, those families from other cultures, they plan for generation to generation to generation. If we were in charge of things in our own neighborhood, we wouldn't have to worry about another race taking over. I'm trying to get at. A lot of people are complaining that these white folks and everybody's coming in, taking over. But if you could get your life together and everybody chip in for grandma's house, right, we wouldn't be going through this. But everybody is for self. Nobody is thinking about unity. Nobody's thinking about the future generation. Now, not to throw shade at my grandmother, but my grandmother, she did not approve of where me and my parents were living in East New York. She didn't like it. So a smart person would say, oh, you know what? I'm going to leave the house to my granddaughter. I'm her only granddaughter. She had 2 other grandkids and they're boys from my uncle. But I'm her only granddaughter. A smart person would say, you know what? I'm going to leave this to one or all of my grandchildren. Right? And that's what they do in other cultures. They keep it in the family. Or at least leave it to my uncle. My uncle has his own house. So maybe that's why she didn't really think of it. But it's like you're bedridden, you're dying. My mother died 3 times before she really died for real. And so you would think, right? So I live in Brownsville past 12 years now. And it's hard. It really is. And I'm a perfect example of I live where I live because of lack of family support. Nobody can make it on their own. Some people do. But for the most part, most people that are successful, they come from supportive families. Trump, I love using him as an example. I talk about him all the time. Y'all could say what y'all want about Trump, but Trump is Trump because of his father. His father invested in him, right? His father did what he had to do as a businessman. And Trump tells the story of his father gave him $1 million loan or whatever. But the point that I'm getting at it is white people are not jealous of each other. And even when they are, they still work together. The father didn't say, oh, forget Donald. He said, no, I'm going to invest in my son. So this way, my grandchildren and their children and their children's children will always be good. Now, I have you to know, all of Trump's children are college educated and they all have their own careers, to my knowledge. So they are not spoiled brats. However, if they chose not to work, they don't have to, right? Their seed, like Trump's father set the tone that they gonna always live right, My cousin, we was talking the other night and she was like, I don't understand why people got $1 million. What they need all that money for? I said they worked hard and they earned it. And yes, some people do need $1 million because they live in $1 million house. So they need money to take care of their expenses. You don't have that many expenses. And our family, of many black families, are dysfunctional. Everybody's for self. I'm like, if you look it up, not just on the internet, when you compare the economy of Europeans versus blacks, there's no comparison. Also, we are at the bottom of the totem pole, okay? Indians are number 1, then whites, then Asians. Like, they have their own economy. So even when you see them in their nail salons and you see them in their Chinese takeout, best believe they going home to their homes in Flushing, okay? And Flushing is a very nice area. And the whole area is Asian. Your black ass can't move in there. No, you're not moving over there. They're very close and rooted together, and they support one another. I remember I was in a salon, this maybe be 2 years ago, and there was something that she couldn't do. But you know what she told me? She said, go across the street, they'll do it for you. And of course, across the street was another Asian spot. But she has sense enough to say, I don't know those people over there, but I know that they look like me and they'll hook you up. And I was like, wow, if we could just get that mindset, if we could just, and I have that mindset. A lot of women have asked me, yo, where can I get a cake? Where can I? And I always refer them to my homegirl, Lady Ashley. Now, we're not close friends. We went to school together and we have mutual friends. But it's normal for me to refer someone and say, yeah, Lady Ashley, even long before she had her bakery. I can't do cakes, but I know somebody who looks like me that does, right? And Asians do that all day. You know, you want a particular design or whatever. I can't do it, but go up the block, go across the street. I don't know who they are, but they look like me. And I want you to support people who look like. And if we was to get into that mindset, we'll do a war, and then we can't complain about regentification and things of that stature. Because when it's yours, nobody could take it. You know, nobody could take it. That's simple. Now, in history, yes, they've burned down our homes, churches, yes. But for now, it's important for us to support one another. And I don't know why that's so hard for us to do. It's like a curse or something on the whole black race. Like, it's not just African Americans. This is Africans, it's Caribbean people. It's like we really need to work on loving ourselves. You know, love yourself enough to help your brother. And those are my thoughts.